As we all know, human history is a long and violent affair, with atrocities being committed pretty much throughout our entire existence. However, the Middle Ages, also known as the medieval period, took things to a whole new level of violence. After Rome fell around 500 AD, Europe was plunged into chaos, and it would take nearly 1,000 years for it to recover. After all, those times were called the Dark Ages for a reason. However, despite the barbarism and backwards behavior that was rife throughout Europe and Asia, there was a shining light in the Middle East. Islam, although founded on the back of much conquering, was experiencing a golden age, while the rest of the world suffered from plagues, persecutions, and ignorance of all kinds, leading to the deaths of millions. This light that had grown and shone for nearly 500 years, from 800 AD to the 1200s, would be snuffed out in one of the most brutal and devastating massacres the world has ever seen. Although the Islamic world was experiencing a period of prosperity due to its focus on the sciences and the emphasis on scholars being a huge part of the society, the rest of the world was pretty chaotic, and by the middle of the 12th century, a storm was brewing that was going to plunge the Islamic world into turmoil. That storm was known as Hulagu Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson. Although he had conquered much of Asia, Eastern Europe, and the Arab world, after Genghis's death in 1227, there was still a lot of work to do. He had left his massive but fractured empire to his sons and then his grandsons. In 1251, Mongol Khan took the throne and had the momentous task of bringing the Mongol Empire, that was now split into 4 parts and all huge in their own right, under control. One part of the empire that wasn't cooperating was the East, in an area of Persia we now call Iraq. The part of the Mongol Empire that controlled that region was called the Ilkhanate and had been busy subduing Turkey, Syria, and Iran, but somehow the city of Baghdad and the rest of Arabia had largely remained untouched by the Mongol hordes. The Abbasid Empire, who were controlling Baghdad at the time, had been dealing with their own internal issues with neighboring empires, while the Mongols were conquering their neighbors in the east. By the middle of the 12th century, they had managed to build a thriving civilization and bring back Islamic dominance in the area of Iraq. Much of the huge Islamic Caliphate that had ruled most of Arabia, Persia, North Africa, and Asia was on the decline, largely due to the Mongols taking over, but now the Abbasids were starting to establish control. The Mongols weren't happy about that. Just imagine, the year is 762. The Umayyad Empire has fallen, and the Abbasid dynasty rises from its ashes. Al-Mansur, the second caliph of this new dynasty, stands alone under the moonlit sky, envisioning a future where his empire will shine brighter than any before it. He believes that to secure the future, they need a new heart, a new capital. And on the banks of the Tigris, he sees that future. And so, within a few short years, Baghdad rises from the desert sands, a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. Its markets teem with goods from every corner of the known world, and its streets echo with the languages of traders, poets, and philosophers. Spices from India, silks from China, precious metals from Africa, and perfumes from Arabia all find their way to Baghdad. Wealth flows into the city, but its true treasure lies in the mines it attracts. Baghdad becomes the epicenter of the Islamic Golden Age. At the heart of Baghdad's intellectual explosion is the House of Wisdom. Here, the knowledge of antiquity is gathered, translated, and expanded upon. Inside, scholars study scrolls, conduct experiments, and discuss theories. With the new technology of paper, they can preserve and share knowledge like never before. Ancient texts from Greece, Persia, and India are studied and built upon, creating a foundation for future discoveries. However, this peace and prosperity in the wondrous center of innovation that was Baghdad wouldn't last forever. The 10th century dawns on Baghdad, a city still glowing with the brilliance of its golden age. But beneath the surface, the power of the Abbasids is waning. Gradually, their influence diminishes, and in 945, the once mighty city falls into the hands of the Bides. After much civil strife, the Abbasids eventually retake control of the city, and in the years after the first millennium, it was one of the few cities in the world that could boast a population of over 1 million, a truly incredible feat for the time. The Mongols has their eyes on the region, but although Genghis had invaded the nearby Khwarezmian Empire, they didn't return to the region until 1230 AD. During the 1230s, Mongols invaded many neighboring lands and even tested the waters by raiding the walls of Baghdad a few times. But even the Mongols were hesitant to commit to a full-scale assault. This all changed in the 1230s due to a series of events that were epic, violent, and in the end, very unfortunate for Baghdad. It would involve a secret sect of assassins who are so infamous, they even inspired a whole video game series that we all know and love. The Order of Assassins were founded in first millennium and existed until around 1275. They existed within the Nizari Ismaili order and lived in the mountains of Persia and the Levant, and held strict covert operations throughout the Middle East, posing a substantial strategic threat to everyone in the area. Over the course of nearly 200 years, they killed hundreds who were considered enemies of the Nizari Ismaili state, including Christian leaders and many prominent Mongol warriors and generals. The modern term assassination is believed to stem from the tactics used by the assassins. So now the new Khan, Mongke, had had enough of rebellious groups and unleashed his brothers all over the Mongol Empire. Some went west to subdue China, but Hulagu was sent east to crush the Nizari, take Baghdad, and bring the Islamic world to its knees. For the task, he was assigned 1/5 of the entire Mongol forces. The Khan knew defeating the Abbasids would be no easy task, especially since before they got to Baghdad, they had to make their way through Persia, a hostile land which was home to the Nizari assassins. Hulagu controlled a massive army of around 200,000 Mongol warriors from all over the empire. Some of the best generals, engineers, princes, and even a king were part of his army. It was diverse, experienced, and ready for the task at hand. However, they had enemies on all sides, and striking at the heart of the caliphate wouldn't be easy. Hulagu and his army got to Persia at the end of 1253, and due to the size of his army made a very leisurely pace, by Mongol standards anyway. They slowly made their way through Persia, spending a long time in places like Kish and Transoxiana in modern-day Uzbekistan. The rulers there were friendly to the Mongols, so they spent nearly 2 years passing through without much action. In the year 1255, they'd finally make it to Kohistan, the home of the assassins. They wouldn't be so friendly. Before Hulagu's army arrived in Kohistan, they had sent a general named Kitbuka to lead an advanced vanguard to subdue the Nizari Ismail. While Hulagu was chilling, Kitbuka was engaged in ferocious battles with the Nizari. He had taken some fortresses, sacked the city of Tun, but was crushed at Gerdach Castle, a major stronghold for the assassins. The Nizari were putting up a good fight, and the Mongol vanguard lost many men. Around the time Hulagu arrived, though, the Grand Master of the Assassins, Ala ad-Din Muhammad, was killed. Hulagu sent ambassadors to his successor, who tried to stall in his reply, but eventually the Mongols captured his fortress too and forced him to surrender. The new Grand Master, Rukn al-Din Kursha, attempted to persuade the other Nizari strongholds to surrender, and most did, apart from Gerdaku, who managed to somehow hold out for 15 more years. That was the assassins taken care of, and now North Persia was for the most part subdued. It was a nice little warm-up for the Mongol army. but now they had their main task, taking Baghdad. If you thought this Mongol campaign into the heart of the Islamic world was exciting, what came next was truly monumental. It came with many surprises for both the Mongols and the Caliphate, and would ultimately culminate in one of the deadliest battles in human history, with over 1 million casualties. It deserves a video of its own, so stick around for part 2, where we'll delve into what happened next with the Siege of Baghdad. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.